A.R. Martin, also known as A.R. and Grandpa, was born in Germany July 24, 1876. He came to the United States with his parents, Rudolph and Lena Martin, at the age of 4 years. They entered the United States through New York and by train first to Milwaukee and then to Colby. From there they came by ox cart to the town of Green Grove, where they settled for a few years on a small piece of land. The father built a log house. They had 1 or 2 cows and some chickens. In the winter, the father worked in the lumber camps. Later, he bought some land in Curtis and lived and farmed there. The family consisted of the parents and 3 boys. A girl died in Germany. The boys went to school in Curtis, where A.R. received his education. When he was 16, he worked as an apprentice in a blacksmith shop in Colby, owned by N.P. Peterson, who incidentally was the father of attorney John Peterson. On Sundays, his days off, he would walk to Curtis and back again in the evening. His wages were $1 per week plus room and board. After a 2-year apprenticeship, he went to work in the John S. Owen lumber camp as a blacksmith and horseshoer. The work was hard and the hours were from early morning until late at night. Later, he worked in the shop in Owen with William Sutter. On September 1906, he built a house in Owen for $900. The house is now owned by R.W. Hare. The lot to the west of the house was used as a pasture for his horse. He moved to Withee in 1908, where he purchased the home and blacksmith shop of Rasmus Jensen, and then he started his own business, which lasted for almost a half a century. Then there was a sign over the door which read, A.R. Martin, Blacksmith and Horseshoeing. The shop was built in 1898 by Rasmussen and was powered by a gasoline engine. Gasoline torches were used to light the shop during the hours of darkness. About 1909 or 1910, the woodworking shop was added to the north side of the building, where sleighs and wagons were built, and where all types of repairs were built and made. Some of the helpers, as they were called, at various times were Alvin Priveno, Hubert Anderson, Bill Brookert, Louis Meyer, Louis Clubben, John Gummerson, Fred Jones, and Gus Lentz, who later bought the shop. The blacksmith shop was always a busy place during all seasons, with horses being the source of power for wagons and machinery. The winter season was probably the worst due to the snow and icy conditions requiring more helpers. The farmers would line up early in the morning to wait to have their teams shod. As many as 120 or 130 shoes would be fitted and nailed on during the day. The prices were $1 for shoeing and 25 cents for sharpening a plowshare. Sleighs were built from $20 to $30, depending upon the size. If a farmer brought his own lumber and usable irons, the cost would be less. After the shop was wired for electricity, the electric motors were installed for power. The trip hammer was installed to sharpen plowshares and other ironwork. This was an aggravation to the teachers across the street in school. The clattering of the trip hammer was extremely noisy, and even closing the windows didn't help. Another aggravation was the children going to the shop at recess time and at the noon hour to watch the horseshoeing, and the fire on the forge fascinated them. In 1949, at the age of 73, the shop was sold to Gus Lentz, but he continued to work part-time. He also worked in the John Deere Company shop during the spring and fall plow season. This was a little different, as he worked with a gas furnace rather than a coal-fired forge. The gas heating was much faster. He worked with the John Deere Company until age 85. At this time, the horseshoeing and blacksmithing was about to an end. The tractor and electricity had taken over the power in the farms. During his years in the shop, he not only shod farm horses, but race horses, riding horses, and western broncos, which had not yet been broken. These were put in a sling-type rack and raised off the floor. The foot to be shod was placed in a padded brace. Then the kicking, to prevent the kicking, and then that would make the shoeing easier. Needless to say, there were many bruises and broken bones. My father never used harsh treatment on any of these animals. In 1955, the building was sold to Nils Nielsen, and the materials were used to build a chicken broiler house on his farm north of Owen. The lot which the shop stood on was bought by Emil Hansen, and later the Withee post office was built there. Is it going now? Mm-hmm. Now, a few comments on A.R.'s personal and family life. His wife and 5 daughters lived in this house until 1922. There were 7 grandchildren and 10 great-grandchildren. The mother was Ida Bruckert, and she was a daughter of August and Albertina Bruckert, and they too came to this country from Germany. The daughters were Isabel, Edna, Alice, Emmeline, and Ines. Isabel was the oldest, and she was born in September 1907. She went to school in Withee, graduated from high school in 1926, and then entered Michael Reese Hospital School of Nursing and had a 3-year course in nursing. She did several years of work in private duty and then came to Wisconsin. She was a registered nurse in Illinois and was registered in Wisconsin by reciprocity. She had quite an active nursing life, and she helped out with the school immunization programs along with the Red Cross Bloodmobile collection. She also helped with the glaucoma and blood pressure program that was started in the county several years ago. Her last place of employment was the Clark County Health Care Center, which she retired in 1975. All of the other girls also graduated from Withee High School. Edna graduated from the Wausau School of Business, and she was a secretary for Mr. Landry in the county agricultural office. After that, she worked at the Master Package in Owen. She was married to Jack Olds, who was the owner of the B&O Chevrolet garage in Owen. Alice was also graduated from the Withee High School. She graduated from Stevens Point Normal School, although teaching was not her bit. She married soon after she graduated. Emmeline was also a graduate of the Withee High School, and she went to Wausau Normal, Stevens Point College, and Eau Claire. She taught school for many years, starting out in Rib Lake as a first-grade teacher. And then she taught in the Withee schools, the 5th and 6th grade, until the time of her illness. Ines was a beautician. She took her training in Eau Claire, and she too graduated from the Withee High School. And she married Vic Nielsen, and she is now living in Phillips, as is Alice. There were 7 grandchildren and 10 great-grandchildren. In 1920 or 21, he bought 10 acres of land on the south side of Withee and built a house there. He had cows and chickens and later raised some beef cattle. My mother had a huge garden. We lived there until 1962, my mother having passed away and the 3 sisters were married and living elsewhere. He was also interested in community affairs, having held several community and political offices during his life. He was a trustee on the village board for several years, and then he was elected village president, an office which he held for 25 years, and was also on the county board of supervisors for 30 years, during which time the Clark County Health Care Center was built. He was also on the board of directors of the State Bank of Withee from 1937 to 1973. Also during this time, he was the vice president. He retired from the bank board at age 97. He enjoyed hunting and fishing, and when he could no longer do these, he became interested in gardening. This he continued until age 95. Ill health forced him to give this up. He was an avid reader, and failing eyesight later prevented him from reading only the headlines in the paper. He was a charter member of the Black River Bowman's Club and donated the land on which the clubhouse was built. He lived to be almost 99 years of age. During his life, he had seen many changes in technology and living. He stated things were getting too complicated. Nowadays, the ranch, race, and riding horses are shod by a traveling farrier, as he is called. He has his equipment in a van or a truck, and he goes to his customers. This is a big change from the old shop. He died June 1975 in his home in Withee, across from the Withee Elementary School. He lacked about 6 weeks of reaching his 99th birthday.